Lady or Flapjack. I will answer both. And I'm going to go over how you can use digital tools to kind of help spread the word for your vintage baseball club. And how there's kind of, I use a few different sort of tools online for the Salmon. A lot of them have been going pretty well so far, so I'm going to kind of use my knowledge of what's been working for us and hopefully can help your clubs as well. I'm the publications liaison for the Salmon, which is a term Boss Lady came up with for me. And I've been doing it all on the fly, but these are some things that have helped me out for the Salmon. So the first thing you kind of want to consider just overall is, what do you want to get out of your club's relationship with the internet? What do you want the result of your efforts to be in terms of promoting your club online? So, for us, we're always looking to recruit new members. We always want to engage with other clubs, kind of grow our relationships with other clubs in the league, and we want to bring more spectators to the field. And all three of those things ultimately lead to a more fun experience for everyone who's playing. If we don't have enough people to play a game, we don't get to play a game, and no one likes when that happens. And the more spectators there are, the more fun it is at the game, for sure. So that's what my goals are with how we represent ourselves online. So I use some kind of fancy marketing sort of lingo in my presentation, and I'm going to break it all down for you. I am not a marketer. I'm a receptionist in an animal hospital, so I'm not like, big city know-it-all when it comes to marketing, but I'm going to do my best for you. So digital presence is where we're going to start. And digital presence, simply put, it's how your club appears online. So that includes kind of all the different places that you show up online. So that would be your website, social media platforms, emails. It's kind of, just how you represent yourself across the internet as a whole is going to be your digital presence. And why do we want to, bother with this modern technology for our vintage baseball game? I know a lot of our vintage clubs have traditionally used a lot of more traditional methods of getting the word out. Word of mouth is fantastic, but there's a limited audience when it comes to word of mouth. So, we really want to raise awareness, reach potential new members, people who've maybe never heard about your club, never heard of vintage baseball. You want to drive spectator support and attendance at your matches. So these are kind of why, much with the digital photography that is kind of a necessity for a vintage game, so is, digital media has become a necessity for reaching people, bringing people to our awesome sport. So online engagement is, I like this quote a lot. It's the online catalyst converts prospects to customers, customers to loyal customers to vocal advocates. Of course, we're not thinking customers, but we're thinking spectators. We're thinking players. It's the gravity that holds an audience in orbit around a brand, so it's the gravity that holds everyone in orbit around your club. It's how you engage with people on the internet. So what it really is somebody likes your Facebook post, somebody visits your website, somebody shares a photo that you put on Instagram. These are all what online engagement are. Somebody likes your meme. I'm going to have a lot of different memes in my presentation, and I promise I will explain what a meme is later on in the presentation. So this is a meme. So I'm going to start by going over tips for all the different platforms that I'm going to talk about, tips that kind of are just very wide-ranging. You can use for everything, and then I'm going to specifically get into tips for your website, tips for Facebook, kind of break it down for you. So these are kind of things you can use, social media, website, all your different locations where you're at on the internet. So the number one best thing I can advise you is to be consistent with all your different platforms, everything you're using. You want a consistent message, you want a consistent information, consistent style and design, tone. You want people to know that your club is your club no matter where they're finding you. So for example, this is the banner from our website, this is our the top of our Instagram, this is our Facebook page. We've got the same logo in all three spots. If your team has different logos in different locations, people might get there and say, wait a second, is this the same team that I'm looking at, or is this a different one? It can be confusing, so you want to be as consistent as possible. So some tips for Netiquette, which is a term I learned when I was researching for my presentation, and I think is cute. Things you want to do in terms of just kind of politeness in representing yourself, your club. First off, you want to create content on behalf of your club as your club. So whenever you're creating content on the internet, think of it as a representation of your club as a whole and not yourself. So not your personal beliefs, not your personal opinions. What would represent best your whole entire club? Correct spelling and grammar, unless you're doing a meme that has the grammar incorrect, something like that. That's general professionalism for sure. Citing your sources is a really big one. If you're posting a photograph, say who took that photograph.
Please.
Crediting your photographers, crediting the people who create the content for you. You want to make sure everyone is represented. Just like, for your book report, you want to cite your sources. And then remember, historically, baseball has always been a family sport. So with your jokes, with your posts, everything you're posting, for most of us, families come out to these games. You want to attract families. You don't want to alienate the younger audiences, or you don't want to alienate the parents by having content that some might think is inappropriate. So the don'ts in terms of Netiquette, the two things you don't talk about in polite society. Whether or not baseball is polite society is to be determined, but I would avoid politics and I would avoid religion for sure. Those are very alienating subjects. All caps makes it sound like you're yelling, overly strong language, and too many exclamation points. You don't want to spam. Spam is sending the same message to large amounts of recipients. It's just kind of the same message popping up over and over and over and over. You don't want to send the same thing over and over. It becomes very annoying. People are turned off very quickly. And then being a troll, which is basically trying to rile people up deliberately. You don't want to be a troll. Generally, that would be, the politics and religion would be a good example of trying to be a troll, get people riled up over things. So, increasing engagement across all your different platforms. I'm going to go over some tips for all of your different platforms before I get more specific. You do want to have a nice big audience, but you also really want an audience that's engaged with what you're posting, because the more engaged people are with you off the field, the more engaged they're going to be with you on the field. They're going to actually make the trip out to see your games. So the easiest way is to post quality content, as the quote says. So the first thing to do to increase your engagement is to be more active and interactive. So, the more posts you do, you're reaching more people. The more you respond to the comments people make on your posts, the more you're replying to DMs, which stands for direct messages. Following related clubs on Facebook, on Instagram, wherever it is. Liking relevant posts. These are all ways to build your relationships online. Cross-posting and cross-promoting. So for that, having the same posts kind of on your different media platforms. So for example, we have our, the way our platforms are set up is that if I make a post on Instagram, it's going to automatically post that onto Facebook, and everything on Facebook is automatically posted on a feed on our website. So with one post, I'm covered in 3 different places. It saves time and it reaches different audiences. And then posting relevant content consistently. The people who are your followers are people who are interested in your club. Generally, I would think interested in baseball. So they are people who are looking for that kind of content. The more relevant your content, the better it's going to be. You want to post things about baseball, maybe things about club members, but not necessarily, our club member's son went to Disney World. That's not necessarily relevant for the people who are looking at your social media. So more like, we have a match coming up next week, that kind of a thing. So these are the platforms that I recommend using. These are what I use for the Chicago Salmon. There are a whole lot of other platforms out there, and if you're comfortable on other platforms, certainly try them out, but these are kind of the ones I'm more familiar with and what I'm going to go into for this presentation. Yeah. First and foremost, I recommend a club website. I think it's the really the home base in terms of, no pun intended, in terms of your club. The first place people are going to go when they look for you is generally going to be your website. If they Google your club and you have a website, that'll be towards the top when things come up. So I'm going to first just kind of walk you through what our website looks like. I'm not saying it's the best website in the world, but I just want you to see what we have going on so you have an idea of what you can do with your website. So this is kind of the main page. You go to chicagosalmon.org. This is what you see. Here on the top, we have a link to our Facebook, a link to our Instagram, and then if you click this, it opens up your email and you're able to email us. We've got our banner here, and then we have a slideshow of sketches, wonderful photographs that kind of cycle through. We have here at the top, on any website, you're going to have a bar like this that leads to all the different pages of your website. If you scroll down, we've got kind of a little brief bio, and then like I mentioned, this is our Facebook feed. So when we post on Facebook, it ends up on here on the website. So that's what's going on the main page. We have our schedule right next to the home page. I'd say that's probably the second most important thing to have on there. We have the schedule as a doc, just as an image here, and then if you scroll down, you also have the option to download it as a PDF, so it makes it very accessible for everyone. And we have last season's schedule as we kind of create them going forward. It's kind of fun to have a little archive so you can go back and see, oh, we played this team on that date. We have computer site. Okay, we have our roster page. So like if you saw Sketch's presentation, he mentioned that he did drawings. So we have a drawing of every player. I just have a fun little bio on there. It kind of, really helps people connect with the players on our teams. And I think it's fun for the players too to look on there and see their bio, see their image there. We have a brief history of our team. This is all from Boss Lady. We have our newsletter. So what we have here on our newsletter page, and I'm going to get more into the newsletter in detail, but we have a place where you can subscribe to the newsletter, and then you can download all of our past issues. We have a small photo page. We have a lot more photos on Facebook and Instagram, but we have some of them up there. All the press that we have for our team, whenever, Boss Lady did a radio show last year, whenever we have some press for our team, we can put that on the page. We have the rules for people who might not know as much about vintage baseball. This is all directly from the VBBA website. I know we're going to be updating it this season, but we've got rules, we've got some terms, and then we have all these other rule books as well, because not every team plays by the same rules. So it's just kind of a resource for people. There's a lot of information on there, and then also very important, we have Join Us. So if people are interested in joining the team, they can fill out this form. They can also, we have our email right here, they can email our club. So that's just kind of in brief what the website looks like. But you'll notice, I know I mentioned consistency earlier, the same banner is on every page, the same color scheme, the same fonts. Everything is consistent on the page. Question?
When you were showing the roster, I just wanted to chime in that you did the bios on everyone. You did like surveys with the team and asked team questions that they answered. So the bios are based on what we wanted.
Right.
We wanted to have about us up there and not what she just felt like putting. You know what I mean? So I just thought that was important to add.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's really nice to let the team interact with all the different kind of media you have going, and I'll get into that more in like the newsletter and places, but I do try to reach out as much as possible with varying results in terms of the responses that I get, but I do try to include everyone in our digital presence for sure. Alrighty. that was kind of what our website looks like. Your website definitely does not have to be as in-depth. The things I absolutely would include on your website are definitely the schedule, most important so people can find you. Your contact info. I really recommend having an email address for your club. We do have a web guy. He created an email through our website, so our website is chicagosalmon.org, so our email is info@chicagosalmon.org. You can also just use, a Gmail, a free platform, but I would definitely recommend having one for your club as opposed to it just being a member's email. It's firstly a privacy issue, but also it's kind of a more polished look for your club, and then, multiple people can kind of figure out who needs to answer certain emails. Maybe someone's in charge of the schedule, someone's in charge of press, different things like that. It's very helpful to have that club email. You definitely want links to your other platforms on your website. I showed you, we have our little Facebook, our little Instagram, so that's on our website, and then a place to gather contact info for people who are interested in your club. Again, I talked about the consistency, keeping everything consistent. When we first took over the website, there were all sorts of different fonts all over the places, which drove us and Boss Lady crazy, so we made sure it's all the same font on every single page, the same sizes, it all looks consistent. Keeping the navigation easy, you saw our navigation at the top, it was very clear what each page was and what was going to be on each page. I recommend keeping the web team small. Probably we've all experienced with our clubs for different things that too many cooks can be a little difficult. So I would have 2 to 3 people maybe in charge of handling the website and kind of dealing with updating it and keeping everything how you want it to be. The tone of voice should be professional. So compared to Facebook, Instagram, other social media, the website should be kind of the most professional of all your different digital tools that you're using. And then optimize for mobile is huge. It's something that is not done as often as it should. These days a little better than it used to be. But that's what our little meme here is about. Optimizing for mobile means making sure your website looks good on a computer, but also on a mobile device. Because nowadays, most people that are going to look on your website are going to be looking at it on a smartphone. So mobile optimization is making sure that it's readable on that smartphone. So this is our website that you saw. The smartphone version of the website is very similar. However, instead of the long menu bar at the top, we've got this little menu. You click on it, the options come up. There's actually, for the photos, which can get really wonky when you're optimizing for mobile, we have a whole separate slideshow of photos that are a different size, thanks to Sketch. He was very adamant about making sure the photos look good on mobile. So those are all sized differently on our mobile site. You can see kind of in this little example just how, if this is what our website would look like, that one on the left, if we had not optimized it for mobile, and it would be very difficult to read. So every once in a while you'll come across a website that clearly was not optimized for mobile, and you can tell that it's very difficult to read. You want to make sure the information is easy for people to access on a mobile device. So Facebook is what I'm going to get into next. That would be probably the second most important platform I would recommend after your website. Facebook has 2.7 billion users worldwide. It is a huge, huge place. Probably most of you are most familiar with Facebook compared to other social medias. So that would be definitely the platform that I recommend after having a website. And I'll just show you what our Facebook looks like real quick. So this is what our Facebook page looks like. We've got a photo of the team. We have got our little logo, so again it's the same logo. And then we've got our information, our about. We have a link to our website here, we have our email there, and then we've just got our feed, which is mostly photos. I do kind of, on Sundays I've been doing these little, 2 weeks before opening day kind of things. When we have matches, Sketch will actually upload albums to our Facebook page, tag all the members, so that's where all our photos end up. you're probably all pretty familiar with Facebook, but it's just important to have all your info on there. Usually what I'll do now that we have our season coming up is you can create what's called a pinned post that just lives at the top of your page. That's going to be our schedule. So you always want the schedule front and center on every platform, so people can find you for sure. So some tips for your Facebook page. First off, I would create a page, it's not a group. It's a little confusing what the difference is. Basically the gist that I understand is that a group is more private. Sometimes groups require, you have to like answer questions or you have to ask to be in the group, whereas a page, people can just like your page. It's a more public platform. You want to make sure your about info, your website, has your website and your email, all really easy to access. You want to create original content as opposed to just reposting. If you're just reposting other stuff from other people over and over, people aren't going to be that interested in following you. This is more of a casual tone to the voice as opposed to the website. So you can be a lot more casual on Facebook. You can include jokes and memes and stuff like that. You want to be smart about tagging. Tagging gives you a really good opportunity to reach other groups, other people. So, you know, on your posts you can tag a location. So if it's photos from your game, you not only tag every player who was there, you can tag the other club, you can tag the actual location where the match was played. You can have a lot of opportunities to broaden your reach by using those tags smartly. And then respond to your comments, to DMs. The more you engage with other people, the more engagements you're going to get back. And then just when you are engaging, this is something that happens a lot on Facebook. You want to make sure you're posting and you're engaging as your club as opposed to yourself. It can be really easy to flip between your personal Facebook and your club's Facebook page. So if you post a bunch of pictures as your club and then you're like, oh, I'm going to like all those pictures. You go in and then it looks like the Chicago Salmon has liked all of their photos. Gosh, they're really into themselves. But you want to make sure you're doing it as as yourself as opposed to the club, and then when you're posting those photos, you want to do it as the club as opposed to yourself. So you just kind of can toggle back and forth, but you want to make sure you know what you're posting as. So my biggest tip for Facebook, Brennan's very embarrassed by all my emojis and my memes. Beware of TLDR. Does anyone know what that stands for?
Too long, didn't read.
Too long, didn't read. You do not want your posts to be too long and people don't read them. How long is too long? A Facebook page, I don't know who did this kind of study, but a post with 40 characters or less receives nearly twice as much engagement compared to longer posts. So generally, the shorter it is, you want to have like one sentence on there, but the shorter it is, the more people are going to be interested in it. A rule I found was the 3-line rule. So you want to keep your content under 3 lines of text. Doesn't necessarily include links you're posting, but if we're doing a photo album, we'll just say 2 or 3 lines. These are our photos from today's match. We played this team, we were at this field, and that's about it. That's really kind of all you need. So keeping things short and sweet. People have very short attention spans when it comes to the internet. So you want to keep things short. Alright, and now I will get into Instagram, which has 1 billion users worldwide. It's a video and photo sharing app, and I'll show you what our Instagram looks like. Instagram is really a phone platform. You can get to it online, but you can't even post from a computer. You really need to use a phone to use Instagram. But this is essentially what your page looks like. So this is what our Instagram looks like. However, when you go onto the app Instagram, you just see a feed, kind of like a Facebook news feed of all the different people that you follow. So, unless they click on us, they're not going to see just our photos. But essentially, Instagram is just photos. It's a square format. If your photos aren't square, it is able to post them. It'll put white around them. So you can do non-square photos. But it is formatted to be square, so when I do stuff like this with the text, I make it square, or else it kind of gets a little wonky with the formatting. They just decided square was the best, so that's how it works. But I do recommend having Instagram. You know, if you're starting out, start with your website, start with your Facebook. If you feel like branching out, Instagram's a great platform. The demographics of Instagram skew much younger than Facebook, so it's kind of a different audience than you're gonna have on Facebook. It's for photo and video, so you do not want big blocks of text. You know, you have to post a photo if you're making a post. You cannot post just text. So if you're doing text, it has to be like a photo of text. So you really want it to be photo and video only. You want to engage with your followers again, respond to comments, respond to DMs. You can even, you know, in your post say something like, you know, look at this awesome batting shot of Sketch. You know, what's the coolest photo that you have of yourself batting? You know, things like that create opportunities for people to engage with you. Or, you know, quick question, who likes, you know, the no bound rule or whatever. You know, you can kind of create those calls to action in your post that you're posting on Instagram. Be mindful with your bio. I think it's like 150 characters. You have a very short space for your bio, so just make sure you get the really essential info in there. And then use your hashtags strategically. Instagram is a big platform for hashtags. That's our little pound symbol. And it's a way to find things. So if, you know, every post we make, I hashtag Chicago Salmon. So if people click on Chicago Salmon, the hashtag, they'll see all of our posts are going to come up. You have 30 max, so I will tag, you know, salmon, I will tag certain things, but then if it's from a particular match, I'll tag the other team, I'll tag the location we were at. If we were in Valparaiso, I'll say hashtag Valparaiso, Indiana, hashtag Indiana. You know, just kind of getting those hashtags out there. You never know who you're going to reach. Create savable graphics. So things that people might want to share with other people. That's the kind of stuff you want to put on Instagram. Create shareable and relatable memes. And now, as promised, I will get into what memes are, which is very hard to explain, to be honest, but it's kind of an idea. It's an image, it's a video, it's a piece of text. Usually I feel like it's an image, but it's passed very quickly on the internet with slight changes. So basically it's a photo that you can caption in all sorts of different ways. So like, you know, one does not simply define a meme. You'll see one does not simply blank. And it'll be in a million different photos with a million different captions. But memes are really fun because people like to share them. It's a quick laugh. And creating fun memes is a good way to get people to kind of start sharing your content. So these were the best baseball ones that we could find, which was actually a little bit difficult. But you know, there's a space out there for really good baseball memes. So if you create some, they'll get you some traction, we can hope. So the last thing I'm going to get into is your club newsletter. This is something that we started last year. We've had really positive response to it. It's been really fun for us. It's been really fun for, I think, everyone in the club to read it when it comes out after every match. And it's just a cool space for people to engage with the club in a different way. So I'm just going to pull up one of our examples here so you can get an idea of what it looks like. That seems like a fine one. So we have our same kind of banner at the top, matches the website. Again, there's that consistency. It can be a little hard to read on this screen, but usually we have like a main article on the front page that's a recap of the match that we just had. We'll have the score on there. There's always really great photos, thanks to Sketch. Then the second page, we usually have what our next game is going to be. And I'll include not only, you know, we're playing this team at this time, but, you know, these are cool things to do in the area if it's somewhere a little further out, something like that. Just kind of so you can get, it makes it more fun than just kind of date and time. And then we'll have photos. I have our little on deck and in the hole, just so people really have an idea of what's coming up in terms of our schedule. We have our little Meet Your Salmon section, so all the drawings we have little bios for everyone, where I reached out to everyone for that. And then I think we mentioned earlier, I sent out surveys. I created this 10-question survey. I sent to the whole team, got all the data, and then I included those as kind of weekly, as different bonuses. This isn't always a survey. Sometimes it's, I have misnomer of the week sometimes. Sometimes I have, also you can kind of play around with it and have whatever kind of content you want to have. But it's fun to get the team's input on stuff as well. We have our follow us, so we always have our Facebook on there, have our Instagram on there, have our website on there. So this is sent out not only to the team, but friends, family, spectators, anyone who wants to get the Salmon Spectator is more than welcome. So it's a cool way to engage with people, especially since most of your clubs, I would assume, are like ours, and not every member is at every single game. So it's fun for people who weren't there to see what happened, fun for people who were there to get a recap of what happened. So we've had a lot of positive comments on the newsletter. So some tips for your newsletter. Free templates are readily available. If you Google newsletter template, you're going to find all sorts of things. We created our own template, which we're always adjusting every single week just because we're design people and we're kind of extra like that. But you can make it as easy or as difficult as you want to. We've chosen to make it difficult, but you can make it very easy on yourself. Send it from your club email. Another really good reason to have a club email. If you're doing a newsletter, it will come from your club email. So it comes from the Chicago Salmon, not somebody's personal email. Please blind carbon copy everyone on your email list. This means that people cannot see other people's email addresses. That's a big privacy thing. You don't want to offend people by sharing their email address with who knows who. So blind carbon copy. Use the photos and the graphics to kind of balance out the text. Of course, the newsletter is going to be much more text heavy than any of your other media presence, but you still want to have photos. You still want to have, you can see with ours, we have different colors, we have different things going on visually to make it more interesting. Again, those surveys, bios, Q&As, these are all things that I've sent out to our club, gotten responses back to help them interact with our newsletter, make it kind of more exciting, more fun for everyone. It's more interesting when people can see the newsletter and be like, oh, hey, I said that, I remember that. And then, recapping the matches and announcing the upcoming matches. That really kind of was the main point of the newsletter. That was the idea it started with. It became more than that, but that's kind of the core of the newsletter, is that match recap and then announcing our upcoming matches. And then again, you want all your contact info everywhere you're at. So you always want your website, your Facebook, all that good stuff. So that was really kind of everything I wanted to cover. I know it's kind of a lot of information and I talk really fast. But if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. I also have my cheat sheet here if you did not grab one, that has kind of the main highlights of my tips for you. So that is it.
Why not Twitter?
I just personally am not familiar with Twitter. I haven't used it, so I started kind of here. I also think I personally prefer a more visual medium, so I know you can share photos on Twitter, but it's more kind of like the point of Instagram. I think you could definitely use Twitter in a fun way for your club. It's just not really a realm I'm too familiar with.
We don't use Twitter. We have a Twitter account, but
I don't know much about Twitter,
Yeah.
but especially since we have like such great photos and things, I find the more visual mediums have been really nice.
And as she mentioned earlier, this was just started last year. So we're still kind of growing into this whole thing. Professor used to put out an email that no one would read for our newsletter. And it was just like, I called Katie up and said, could you put out something someone would want to read? And she put out stuff that people love. So, I mean, yeah.
Is there ever a concern, I guess this kind of goes back to the previous presentation too, but is there ever a concern of like having players in uniform or people in period clothing with modern technology, or is that something you just kind of have to get in and snipe and then go back, or is it something that you're conscious of, but you know that in the grand scheme it's important? Like, how do you navigate those waters?
So, I mean, the way that we do it for like our media, at least for of course for Brennan, he's out there with a big digital camera, and that's kind of obvious. For kind of the digital media side, is apart from the photos, for the spectator, usually it's my mom who's out there taking. I have kind of a leather notebook and an old timey pencil, and she's taking notes for me. So it's not really something that's done on the field. It's really more off the field. I mean, of course, you wouldn't have digital media back in the day. I much prefer when it's all photos of everyone in uniform and that kind of thing, but unfortunately the reality is for most of the matches you go to, everyone on the sidelines is wearing shorts and t-shirts. Hopefully your whole team is in the uniform. Every once in a while somebody's forgotten their pants or something like that. So we do the best that we can. Boss Lady still puts out like a physical little program for each match, and that's got like drawings on it, so that stays very true to the aesthetic of the era, the 1850s aesthetic. But it's also printed off a computer, so you can only do the best that you can, really. To hand letter programs for every single match is just kind of more than anyone would be able to do. So it's just one of those things where if this digital stuff, even though it's not period appropriate, if it gets more people out there, that's what we're looking for. And we want to reach as many people as we possibly can with all our different kind of media outlets, for sure. Well, that's what I got for you. Thank you all so much for coming. If you have more questions, you can always, I think I put it on my little sheet, but you can always email us at our Salmon email. Reach out on Facebook, on Instagram, anything like that. You can sign up for the newsletter if you would like to get the newsletter. Grab yourself a button. But enjoy the rest of the conference, everyone.